Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The movie begins with Sam, who has just been dumped by his girlfriend. At that time, Sam loved music, and since it's all about decency, he goes to his ex-girlfriend Fanny's house to get back the cassette tapes he had given her. When he arrives, he finds Fanny, who supposedly just broke up with her boyfriend and should be feeling down, throwing a huge party filled with alcohol and dancing. As soon as she sees Sam, she runs up to him, hugs him, and reminisces about the past with him. But it's revealed that there's no past or love left, because Fanny has already moved on to someone else. She's in love with another guy now. Her new boyfriend comes to get her from Sam and takes her to a room to have a private conversation, while Sam sits alone at the party, doing nothing, just waiting for his ex, Fanny, to finish her night so he can take his tapes back. As the party continues to unfold in a way that Sam finds increasingly indecent, he gets upset, stands up, grabs Fanny from the party, and demands that he wants his tapes right now. He's not waiting another moment in this disgraceful situation she's created. She says she's busy, and as Sam is entering the room, he accidentally bumps into someone holding a camera in the hallway, causing his nose to bleed heavily. After wiping the blood, he enters the room, finds the box of tapes, and starts collecting them to leave. At that moment, his nose starts bleeding heavily, and the blood drips all over the tapes. He quickly rushes to the mirror, pressing tissues against the bleeding to stop it. Then, he sits down on a chair in the room, tilting his head back slightly to stop the bleeding. Whether from exhaustion or shock after seeing Fanny, he falls asleep there and spends the night. The next morning, he wakes up groggy, gathers his tapes, and gets ready to leave. As soon as he opens the door to the room, he's shocked to find the entire room covered in blood on the walls, on the floor, everywhere. There's no one left in the apartment that was packed with people the night before. Sam is stunned, and the box of tapes slips from his hand. He heads toward the apartment door and finds Fanny sitting on the stairs. When he calls out to her, she suddenly stands up and attacks him, her face half skinless. Terrified, Sam slams the door shut, confused and unable to comprehend what is happening. Still trying to process the shock, he starts to realize that this isn't a dream. This is all real. He rushes to the window to look outside, and to his horror, he sees that the streets are filled with zombie-like corpses attacking and eating each other. He watches as a family in the building across the street turns on each other and tears each other apart. He also sees another family trying to escape in their car, but they're attacked by zombies, who devour them and turn them into zombies as well. After that, the floor of the apartment becomes soaked with blood, and the smell becomes unbearable. Sam grabs a brush and starts scrubbing the floor to get rid of the stench, so he won't suffocate from it. But then, he hears a strange sound coming from the apartment below. He presses his ear to the floor to listen, and suddenly hears a gunshot coming from below. The bullet passes through the ceiling, his floor, and barely misses his ear. Panicking, Sam quickly takes cover to the side. After mustering up some courage, he peers through the hole and sees a man downstairs who has just shot himself, committing suicide by firing a bullet into his head. Sam then manages to break through the ceiling and uses a rope to climb down into the old man's apartment. Once he's down, he discovers that the man had killed himself because he had just shot his wife, who had turned into a zombie. Overcome with guilt and not wanting to live alone with that guilt, the man chose to end his own life. After that, Sam goes to lock the building's main door to prevent the zombies from the street from entering. He then starts going through all the apartments in the building to make sure there are no more zombies. Any apartment where he finds zombies, he locks the door from the outside and marks an X on it so he knows it's dangerous inside and to stop them from getting out and chasing him. Later, Sam comes across the elevator and finds an old zombie inside. But instead of killing him, Sam notices that the zombie poses no immediate threat, so he decides to tie him up to the metal rails inside the elevator to prevent him from escaping. After securing everything, Sam goes back to one of the apartments and decides to rest. He gathers some food and weapons, then puts on his music, which he makes himself, to relax his mind and calm down after the difficult and traumatic day he's just had, still trying to process everything that has happened. After that, Sam goes to the balcony and watches the streets filled with zombies to see if there's any way he can escape the building. But he realizes that the place is overrun, and it's impossible to get out or go anywhere. He then starts taking stock of the food and water he has, counting the days to see how long his supplies will last. He keeps track of the days by marking them on the window of the apartment he's staying in. As time passes, Sam feels a surge of energy building inside him, and he doesn't know how to release it. So, he starts playing his drums at a very loud volume. Soon, he hears a loud commotion coming from the streets below. When he goes to the window, he realizes that his loud music has attracted a horde of zombies who are now gathering beneath his balcony, looking for any way to get into the building. Sam quickly stops playing and begins to feel a deep sense of loneliness and depression. He starts thinking to himself if there's anyone else still alive. If they are, how they're spending their days. They're like me, just trying to survive, or they're doing something else. and how he's ever gonna get out of this city. These are the questions that plague Sam every day as the days drag on. He falls into a routine, waking up, eating, drinking, playing music on whiskey glasses, and then going back to sleep day after day, living the same monotonous life. One day, Sam notices a foul stench of decay coming from the floor below. He removes the wooden cover he had placed between himself and the old man and his wife, who had died downstairs. He discovers that their bodies have started to decompose, and the smell is overwhelming. Sam goes down to them and tries to remove their bodies to throw them outside the building, but he finds it hard to do so. He can't bring himself to discard them like that in the street while they're dead. Instead, Sam decides to put their bodies in bags, sealing them tightly. He even places their photos between them to honor their memory and to prevent the smell from spreading. After that, Sam continues his day as usual, exercising, running around the apartment, eating, and trying to entertain himself with whatever is available to pass the time. Eventually, he resigns himself to living among the zombies and starts using a paintball gun to hunt them, playing with them as a way to pass his free time. Although strange, it brings him a bit of joy to have something to occupy his time, even if it's at the expense of the zombies. Later on, Sam places several containers and barrels on the roof to collect rainwater, so he can have drinking water and use it for bathing. The water supply in the faucets had long been cut off, and he could no longer access fresh water naturally. One night, while Sam is asleep, he suddenly wakes up in a panic after hearing a noise from outside. He's startled when a large group of zombies bursts in and begins to tear at his body, biting and devouring him alive. But then Sam wakes up, realizing it was all just a nightmare. Days pass, and Sam is plagued by more nightmares, struggling through them. He finds it increasingly difficult to live a normal life, unable to adapt to the harsh new reality he's trapped in. Afterward, Sam tries to use his time wisely by exercising to strengthen his muscles so he can handle any zombie attack and defend himself instead of ending up like in his nightmares, being eaten alive. Then, he goes to the zombie locked in the elevator, greets it, and introduces himself, trying to talk to it to avoid the silence that could drive him insane. Sam talks to the zombie, saying that he knows it used to be a doctor before it turned. He asks the zombie, "Do you think there's a cure that could save us? Or do you think there's no hope left? You're already dead, so there's no use in asking you." He continues talking to the zombie, sharing, "You know what's really bothering me? My mom. She's such a kind person, and I know she wouldn't be able to adapt to this situation. She's probably dead by now, but honestly, I'd rather she died with the rest of the people than from cancer, murder, or an accident." Sam goes on reflecting, "You know what's the hardest part? We still don't know how people turned into zombies or what caused this. But after everything that's happened, I've realized it's not the people who became unnatural. It's me. I'm not normal anymore after being alone in this city, unable to adjust to this new life." Later, Sam watches the zombies from his balcony, observing them, when he suddenly sees a cat on the street. He decides to go out and save it, wanting to bring it into his apartment to keep it safe from the zombies. He tries to lure the cat with a can of tuna from a distance, but the cat hides under a car. Sam leaves the building and heads toward the car to rescue the cat. However, the zombies notice him and start chasing him. Sam quickly jumps into a car, closing the door behind him, but a zombie reaches through the window, grabbing his leg and scratching him. Sam manages to move to the back seat and opens the rear door, escaping from the car and running back to his building. He makes it inside just in time and shuts the door before the zombies can follow him. He sees the cat standing outside by the metal gate, right next to a zombie, and worries for its safety. He shoots the gun toward the zombie to scare it off, drawing the zombie's attention toward him and away from the cat. Back in his apartment, Sam treats his leg wound, realizing he was scratched by the zombie. He becomes terrified that he might have been infected and could turn into a zombie himself. He grabs his gun, placing it under his chin, and sits in front of the mirror, watching his face closely for any changes that might indicate he's turning. Sam stays up all night, staring at his reflection, but eventually realizes he hasn't turned into a zombie. The scratch didn't affect him. Relieved, he begins to laugh hysterically, feeling like a madman, but grateful that he's still human. The next day, Sam wakes up to find an unusual silence outside. He is perplexed by the quiet and looks out the window, noticing there are no zombies around. He goes up to the roof and uses binoculars to survey the city, but he still doesn't see anyone and wonders where they might have gone or if someone else has eliminated them. The weather is very hot that day, so Sam heats water and fills the bathtub, sitting in it to cool down. He falls asleep in the tub and wakes up the next day to find the city still quiet and empty. He talks to the zombie trapped in the elevator, expressing his confusion about the disappearance of the zombies. The zombie, however, only sticks out its tongue, showing its hunger. Sam becomes increasingly frustrated and angry with the isolation he's experiencing and vents his anger on the old zombie. Then, he starts playing his drums loudly to attract the zombies back and alleviate his loneliness. To his surprise, the zombies return in large numbers. Sam continues to play loudly and sticks out his tongue at the zombies from his balcony, who try to climb over each other to reach him. Eventually, Sam gets exhausted and falls asleep. During the night, he hears a noise in the hallway and, panicked, grabs his gun and fires a shot at the door without knowing who is outside. When he opens the door, he is shocked to find he has shot a regular girl, not a zombie. Sam is terrified but quickly tends to her wound, gives her food, and takes care of her until morning, realizing her injuries are not severe. After she recovers a bit, Sam talks to her to find out who she is and how she ended up there. She introduces herself as Sarah and explains that she reached the building by moving across rooftops and buildings. Sam then asks if there are other people alive, and Sarah reveals that many others are still alive but are close to going insane due to the isolation they're experiencing. Sam then shows Sarah the zombie trapped in the elevator, and Sarah warns him that this zombie might become aggressive at any moment and could turn into a dangerous creature that could destroy everything. After that, Sam and Sarah go through the apartment and start rationing the limited food they have for the coming days. With the food being very scarce, Sam decides to venture into one of the zombie-infested apartments to collect supplies and food. He kills the zombies in that apartment and gathers everything useful before returning to his own apartment. However, upon returning, he discovers that Sarah is missing. He becomes anxious and searches everywhere, fearing that the zombies might have captured and devoured her. After an extensive search, Sam finally finds Sarah on the roof, looking out over the city. He feels relieved to find her, but Sarah insists that they need to go out and rescue other survivors in different locations. Sam, however, pleads with her not to leave him, as he has just found her and cannot bear the thought of being alone again. Sarah insists that both of them should leave the apartment to avoid going insane or being overwhelmed by zombies. Reluctantly, Sam locks Sarah in a room to keep her safe and prevent her from leaving. He continues to talk to her through the door, trying to keep himself company. One day, when Sarah doesn't respond to his calls, Sam enters the room and discovers that Sarah has been dead for some time. She had died since he accidentally shot her, and the interactions with her were merely his imagination, a result of his loneliness. Sam is devastated by this realization. His mental state deteriorates further, and he covers Sarah's body as it begins to decompose. He performs a small funeral for her, lighting candles and mourning her loss. He then contemplates whether he should continue living in the apartment or venture out in search of other survivors. Deciding to follow Sarah's suggestion, Sam prepares for a journey to find other living people and to escape the apartment. He packs his belongings and decides to leave. As he approaches the elevator, he opens the door to the zombie trapped inside. To his surprise, the zombie does not attack him but instead remains passive, allowing him to leave without any harm. In this dramatic turn of events, the fire alarm rings due to the burning tapes Sam set up. The zombies in the streets are drawn to the apartment building, and they begin to swarm up the building. Sam tries to escape by entering the elevator, but the zombies trap him inside. He manages to escape the elevator by forcing it open and climbs to a higher floor, where he finds a zombie and fights it, ultimately killing it after a fierce battle. Sam then uses a hole he previously made in the floor to re-enter his apartment. To his horror, he finds the apartment filled with a large number of zombies, who aren't aware of his presence due to the darkness and smoke from the burning tapes. Sam manages to escape the apartment and reaches the roof, where he ties a rope around himself and decides to jump to avoid being caught by the zombies. However, the rope is too short, and he ends up getting stuck halfway down the building, hitting the wall and losing consciousness. After some time, Sam regains consciousness and climbs onto the adjacent building's roof. He reflects on how he will navigate through the buildings and survive. The movie ends ambiguously, leaving Sam's fate uncertain and the screenplay unresolved, with no clear conclusion to his journey or final destination. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button to get new videos. See ya!